Welcome to the Westcott Crochet channel and welcome to the Loop Chalet. This one is giving me festival vibes. You just need shorts and a pair of wellies and you're good to go. If you like the look of this project, let me know with the like button. If you want to see more, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell. Any yarn recommending a 4mm hook will create a similar result. I used a 4.5 and a 2.5. I also used a tape measure, stitch markers and a yarn needle to weave in my ends. Working with a 4.5mm hook, I'm going to make a chain that reaches all the way around the widest part of my upper body. I work the length of my chain and I need the chain count to be divisible by 5, so I added an extra couple on to take it to 110 chains. I'm going to chain an extra one to turn. I'm not going to work into the turn chain. I'm going to start from the second chain from my hook and single crochet. Insert my hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops. I'm going to single crochet all the way down the chain and I'll come back when I've done. I have 110 single crochets, chaining 1 to turn. I'm going to work back again in single crochet, so in through both loops and work the stitch. I'm going to work 10 rows of single crochet, chaining 1 at the end to turn and not working into those turn chains. That's my 10 rows. This is now the bottom band. I'm going to do a loop row next, but I don't want the loops to start at the beginning and I don't want them to go right to the end. So I'm going to start 6 stitches in and I'm going to stop 6 stitches short. I'm going to chain 1 to turn and I'm going to slip stitch up the first 5 stitches. I can either do this or I can cut my yarn and reattach, but I'm going to slip stitch. So into the stitch, pull through everything. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and that gets me to where I need to be at the 6th stitch. So into the 6th stitch I'm going to start the loop stitch. So I put my yarn around my forefinger on my left hand. It has to go up and over the back. Insert my hook, take it around the back of both those loops and pull them through, keeping the yarn on my finger, the loop. I can now take my 2 fingers to take the loop off my other hand, pin it down and yarn over, pull through. So one more time, in through the stitch, around and back through, pull it off, hold it down and finish the stitch. So I'm just single crocheting but keeping a loop at the back, which will now be the front. And you can see little loops form. So you need to have a practice with this before you crack on if you haven't worked this stitch before, just to make sure that you can get them all roughly the same size. It takes probably about 5 or 10 minutes of practice and then it's second nature, as with most stitches. So I'm going to work all the way across, working my loops up until the last 5 stitches, which I'm going to leave empty. I'm back and I have a row full of loops. The next row, I chain 1 and work all the way back just with single crochet. So again, I left the 5 stitches empty at the end. So just starting from this new start point and single crochet all the way to the other end, the new end. To here. That's the single crochet row complete. Chain 1 to turn, and I'm going to come back with a loop row. So in through the stitch, wrap around, release the finger, finish the stitch. I'll just work a few of these and then I can show you how it looks on the other side. Get that out of the way. So your loop rows just lap on top of each other and they get denser as you get more loops, obviously. So a loop row followed by a single crochet row, loop row, single crochet row. I'm going to keep doing that now until this section reaches to within 4 centimeters of my underarm point. I'll come back then. I'm back and I've worked 14 loop rows with single crochet rows in between. From top to bottom, it measures 23 centimeters. So from here I need to divide up this section and work in 3 separate sections. So I take my stitch count, so just working on my numbers, 110 I had stitch wise. I've already lost 5 at the beginning and 5 at the end, so I'm down to 100. I'm going to take off 20 more, so I'm down to 80, and then I'm going to divide that 80 by 5, which gives me 16. So from either end I count in 16 stitches. That's the 16th stitch. Then I'm going to count another 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to mark that stitch. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So 16 in plus 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mark that one. I ended my section here on a loop row. That's actually important, I forgot to mention. So end on a loop row. I'm going to now go for my single crochet row. I've already chained 1 to turn, and I'm going to single crochet up to the stitch next to the marked stitch, so not into the marked stitch. I'm going to stop there, and that's my last one. Caught up in my loops. Okay, so I've single crocheted up to the marked stitch, leaving that marked stitch empty. I'm not going to chain 1 at the end to turn. I'm just going to turn, and working from the second loop, I'll start with my loop row. And work back to the end. I worked my loop row all the way to the very end, and I've chained 1 at the end. I'm going to come back with my single crochet row, and I'm going to stop 1 stitch short of the end, so this last stitch will remain unworked. So next I'm going to do the last 2 rows again, essentially. So I'm going to start the loop row without chaining 1 to turn. I'm going to work from the second loop from my hook and start looping. And then I'm going to come back with a single crochet row, and I'm going to stop just 1 stitch short of the end again. so leaving that last stitch unworked. At the end of that row, now have a gentle slope for the underarm section. From here I'm going to work regular loops rows and regular single crochet rows again, chaining one at both ends to turn and working all the stitches. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get to the shoulder. So this section goes all the way up to my shoulder. I've worked up to my shoulder section and I have from the bottom to the top about 50 centimeters. Next I'm going to add a trim going all the way down here, so I'm going to keep my yarn attached and create the trim. In preparation for the trim, I'm just going to work a row of single crochet all the way down this edge. I'm going to put one stitch at the end of each row, so every time I see a loop I should have one in the middle, one on the loop, one in the middle, one on the loop. Chained one already, the end of the last row, which was a loop row. I need to end on a loop row so I don't have a single crochet row separating my loops. So in with the first one, and then on the loop, between the loops, whoops, don't loop your loops, and on the loop. So I'll work that all the way down till I get to the bottom edge here. Worked my way all the way down the edge now. I've got 70 rows, so I've got 70 stitches. Need to make sure that they match. At the end here I've put in an extra stitch because I've got a bit going on here with the start of the bottom border, so I've just put 2 in at the end there to make sure I've got 2 stitches for every 2 rows. You can see the rows are actually marked by the pattern that the stitch pattern forms. Okay, so onto the trim now. I'm going to go along these 5 bottom band stitches with back loop single crochet. And 5. At the end I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to do back loop single crochet back in the other direction. And there's my 5 again. Just going to twist around. So the stitches that I've just made up the side, I'm now going to slip stitch 2 at a time. So into the first one, just make sure I'm using my first one, in through there, in through the next, and then I turn around and I work my 5 stitches again. The first 2 loops are the slip stitches I just made, so I don't work those. So starting from the 3rd back loop and go up again, chain 1 at the end, come back, slip stitch twice and repeat until I get all the way up to the top. Where is the top? I'm lost. There. Back to the top of here. Finish the trim, going all the way up the front edge there. I'm going to chain 1 now to secure that. Pull it tight. Cut my yarn. Put that through. And I'll just weave that in later. So the next thing I need to do is work up the back. So going back to my stitch markers, I'm going to work the back between those 2 markers. I'm going to skip the stitch directly next to the marker and reinsert here and reattach my yarn here. And I'm going to work up to the stitch after the space on this side as well. So insert my hook into here. I need to make a slip knot. So had I not gone up this side section, this is the direction that I would have followed if I was just working another row as normal. So on with the slip knot, pull that through, chain one to secure. So again, here's the mark stitch, missed one, joined into the next one. Okay, so I'll start my single crochet again into that same stitch and work all the way along and stop here. So mark stitch, miss a stitch, stopping here. Here at the other end, stopped where I said I was going to stop. I turn around without chaining one. I'm starting from the second loop from my hook. I'm going to create the slope for the underarm section the same as I did for the side section. So I start the loop row, second loop from my hook without chaining, and I'm going to stop before the last stitch, so into this stitch, leaving that one empty. Then I'm going to turn again without chaining. I'll come back again, second loop from the hook, second stitch, sorry, from the hook, with a single crochet row, and I will stop one stitch short of the end. So 5 times in total. I've just done the single crochet row, I'll do the loop row, I'll do a single crochet row, a loop row, and a final single crochet row, where I won't be chaining one at the end, and I will be stopping one stitch short of the end. After those 5 rows, I've now got a little slope on this side to match the one over here. So when it's worn, I now have a little underarm slope section. Obviously the same thing happened over on this side. From here I'm back to just regular rows, alternating between loop row and single crochet row, all the way along, working all the stitches, chaining one at each end to turn, and then back again with all the stitches. I've worked my entire back section, and whilst I was up there, after the loop row, I just joined the shoulder on this side. I will film the joining of the other shoulder later, but just to explain, I just worked a loop row. So my front panel had 16 stitches. I worked from the outside in with just a loop row, so the loops appear on the front and there's the stitches going across here. I stopped at these 5 stitches that I have for the front trim. So the front trim will form part of the collar later, so it's left unjoined. I've also added a side trim, which I'll again go through later, but for now, onto the second front panel. So for the second front panel, I'm going to attach my yarn here next to the marked stitch, so the stitch next to it. Pop on a slip knot, pull it through, chain one to secure. Starting into that same stitch, I start with my single crochet row. I'm going to work all the way across, chain one at the end, come back with a loop row. I'm going to stop working loops one stitch before the end, so here. I won't chain one to turn, and I'll work from the second stitch from my hook and go back with a single crochet row. And I'll do that again for 5 rows in total. So single crochet row, loop row, single crochet row, loop row, single crochet row. Just the same as I did on the other side to create the slope. But obviously this is the edge, so we do chain one at this edge and work all the way to the end. So only sloping at this inside edge for 5 rows. After that, I go back to regular rows working every stitch, chaining one at both ends until I get the height up to here. I've worked up the height of my front panel. To make sure that I have the same join as I did over here, I need to work from the back, making loops at the front to join with a loop row. On this side, the other side that I already worked, I worked from the outside in this direction. I need to keep going in the same direction to get the same result. So I need to chain and cut here and reattach over here. I have 16 stitches from my front panel. I need to count 16 stitches over on my back panel and match the 2 stitches and join in the same stitch. So here I am into the corner stitch on the front panel, and I'm 16 stitches in on the back panel to match my front stitches. I've put on a slip knot, pull that through, chain 1 to secure, and then I'm going to turn around, and work from the back, joining with my loop row. So into the same stitch that I've just joined for number 1, and a loop. Next stitch along on both sides and loop. And I'm going to do this all the way along my 16 stitches. At the end I'm going to keep my yarn attached, because from there I can work the arm trim. So that's my finished seam on the shoulder, matching the one I'd already worked over here. And as I say, whilst I'm here, I may as well work the arm opening trim and come back and do the front trim afterwards. First thing I need to do is work all the way around the arm opening with a row of single crochet, 1 stitch at the end of each row. I've already chained 1 at the end of my seam. I'm just going to start working my way around, 1 stitch at the end of each row. Worked all the way around with my single crochet row, slip stitched into the chain 1 to close off the round. I've changed now to a 2.5mm hook, and from where I've just left off I'm going to chain 5. I'm then going to chain an extra 1 to turn, and I'm going to single crochet back down my 5 chains. Okay, back at the bottom, I'm going to slip stitch twice around the arm opening, and then I'm going to turn back up this trim section and work back loop single crochet, starting from 3rd stitch, because the first 2 are the slip stitches. Chain 1 at the end, turn around, a little tricky, and work back loop again into my 5 stitches. I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around the arm opening, back loop single crochet, up and down the trim, slip stitching twice into the base of the arm opening each time I arrive there. Whoops, yeah. Turn around, back up, back down, slip stitch twice, turn around, up and down, slip stitch twice, and I'll get back round to here where I'll join the two sides. I've worked the trim all the way around the arm opening. I just need to join the two ends. I'm going to do that on the inside. Just pull my loop through and hold the two sides together with the right sides facing each other. Put my loop back on. So I've just got the 5 stitches to seam. This is the side I've just finished working on. I've got 2 loops. This is the start chain side where I've got the 1 remaining loop. I'm going to go through the back loop on the stitch I've just finished, which is the front loop because it's nearest to me. So the outside loop, and then the loop on the start chain. And I'm going to pull through everything for a slip stitch. So again, outside loop, chain loop, pull through everything. Just got 5 to do, so that's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, chain 1 and cut. And that's the seam. The next job is to add the front trim over here. So into the top stitch, insert my hook and back to the 4.5 mil, on with a slip knot, pull it through, chain 1 to secure that. I'm going to swivel around and work a row single crochet all the way down the edge, 1 stitch at the end of each row, starting with the stitch where I just joined. I've worked my single crochet edge and I'm here at the bottom where the bottom band is, and I have 5 stitches. I'm going to just orientate myself so that I'm not having to be a contortionist quite so much. I'm going to, back loop single crochet along this bottom band, 5 stitches. I've actually got 2 back loops because I slip stitched back along my 5 stitches way back at the beginning rather than cutting yarn and reattaching. So I'm going to single crochet and grab both my back loops just to tidy that up. And then it'll just look neater from the back. Okay, last one. I'll chain 1 at the end and turn again and work back down the 5 stitches in the back loop. At the end, I will slip stitch twice up the single crochet row that I created a moment ago. I'll turn around and I'll come back up again, put my 5 stitches into the back loops, remembering these 2 are slip stitches I've just done. So starting from the 3rd stitch from my hook, work my 5, chain 1 at the end to turn, work the back loops back down again, and slip stitch twice up the length until I get all the way to the top. I've worked my 2nd front trim. I slip stitched into the last stitch at the top, and I've actually slip stitched back through my 5 stitches because I need to start my collar over here. I could just cut the yarn at this end and reattach at this end, but I've just slip stitched backwards instead. I'm back to the 2.5mm hook now. I've chained 1 at the end, and I'm going to work my 5 stitches again, but I'm going to put 2 stitches in each. So that's my 10 stitches, and now I'm onto the back. I'm going to work across the back where I have 16 stitches, and I'm going to put 2 in each of those also. At the other side trim, I pick up my 5 stitches there and put 2 in each of those. And then I've gone all the way around. Next I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to work all those stitches again, just single crochet back round, chain 1 at the end, come back the other way. I'm going to keep doing that until I've got the height I want for the collar. I'm not sure how many rounds yet. I'll let you know when I come back. I ended up working 12 rows on the collar. I've chained 1 to secure and cut my yarn. If you're wondering how much yarn all of this looping takes up, I have that much left from 900 meters. I just need to weave in a bunch of ends now, and then I'm done. Do all of that and you'll have one of these. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. A huge thank you to those who already have, and to everyone, thank you for watching today.